Hello everyone, I am Larivin Chilpi Espaldon from Group 10 and we are tackling about Chapter 12 entitled Pricing the Factors of Production. Factors of productions are land, labor, capital, natural resources, and rather mysterious input in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the act of starting new firms, introducing new products and technological innovations, and generally taking risks that are necessary to seek out business opportunities. So 12 to 1, the principle of marginal productivity. What is marginal productivity? To explain how much any input of a profit maximizing firm will demand and given the price of that input. For a business trying to make the most profit, it should keep buying or hiring an input until the money it gains from using one more unit of that input equals the cost of that unit. So, marginal physical product or MPP is the increase of output that results from adding one more unit of an input while keeping all other inputs the same, while marginal revenue product or RMP is the additional money value a firm gains from using one more unit of an input. It is calculated by multiplying the marginal physical product MPP of the input by the price of the output that it produced. So if MRP is higher than the input's price, example, a bag of corn gives $25 in extra revenue but only costs $10. The business should buy more because it makes a profit on each additional unit. If MRP is lower than the price, example, a bag gives $6.75 but it costs 10, the business is spending. So how does MPP and MRP works? MPP is the extra output produced by adding more units. For example, Naomi's farm, the farm decides how much organic corn that is priced at $10 to buy to feed the chickens and is priced by $0.75 each. Table 1 shows that MPP. Column 3 shows how many additional chickens each bag of corn yields. The chicken farmer decides that she wants to earn more profit, so she uses a solution of buying more bags of corn to feed the chicken to increase their weight. The heavier the chicken is more valuable. That is the MPP. How can we say that we gain profit from that? That is MRP. It shows the extra revenue that we earn from by doing MPP. By doing the math, we multiply the effect of our decision on the business. For example, the chicken increased by its weight of 34 pounds per pound was $0.75. So by multiplying 34 multiplied 0.75, the result will be $25.5 for each fourth of the bag. So next, we will dive into corollaries and additional principles. Input demand depends on a price. The lower the price of an input is more of it that the firms will demand, and vice versa. For example, if a corn costs $20 per bag instead of 10, Naomi would only buy up to 5 bags. Since the 6th bag is MRP is $19.50 below 20. Our profit price gradually decrease, so we will stop to buy 5 to earn profit. And marginal productivity analysis shows that quantity demanded of an input normally declines as the input price increase. It is called the law of demand applies to inputs just as it applies to consumer goods.
Demand curves. So figure 1 graphs the MRP schedule showing the marginal revenue products or MRP for corn rising and the declining as Naomi feeds more and more corn to her chicken. So sa unang graph, makikita natin ang marginal revenue product or MRP ng corn. So ibig sabihin, ito yung dagdag na kita na nakuha ni Naomi sa bawat dagdag ng isang bag ng corn na pinapakain niya sa kanyang mga manok. So sa simula, habang dinadaragan niya yung corn, tumataas ang kita dahil mas nagiging productive yung kanyang mga alaga. Pero habang sobra naman yung mais, bumababa na yung dagdag na kita niya. Ito yung tinatawag na diminishing return. habang mas marami ang input, paliit ng palit ang nadagdag na kita niya. So, makikita rin sa graph ang tatlong presyo ng corn, which is $20, $15, and $10. So, ang rule dito is simple lang, is magdadagdag si Naomi ng corn at hanggang ang kita mula dito sa marginal revenue ay kapantay o mas mataas sa presyo ng corn. Now, kaya kung $20 ang presyo, is titigil siya around 5.6 bags kasi doon nagiging equal ang marginal revenue at $20. Kung $50 naman, sa 6.8 bag siya titigil at kung $10, aabot siya sa 7.7 bags. So, mapapansin natin na habang mas mura ang corn is mas marami siyang bibilhin na mais para pampakain sa kanyang manok. Demand for corn or labor for any other inputs is called a derived demands just because derived from the underlying demands for the final products. Now, bakit nga ba tinawag siya na derived demand? Kasi hindi naman talaga corn yung mismong goal ni Naomi. Ang goal niya talaga is gusto niya talagang magbenta ng manok or kailangan niya lang talaga ng corn para makagawa siya or para maging mas productive yung kanyang mga alaga. So, let's just give an example is yung price ng manok is tumaas around $0.75, naging $1.50 per pound siya. So, mas malaki ang kita niya sa bawat dagdag na production. Dahil dito, tataas din ang marginal revenue product or mas mataas at mas marami siyang bibilhin corn sa bawat price. Ibig sabihin is ang demand sa corn ay nakadepende sa demand ng manok. Kaya siya tinawag na derived demand or marginal revenue demand. Move on to figure 2. So, as an upward shift of the derived demand curves for corn from D0 to D1, even though the marginal physical productivity curves have not changed. Thus, an upward shift in demand for poultry leads to an outward shift in the demand for corn. So, sa second graph, makikita ang rightward shift at leftward shift ng demand curve ng corn depende sa demand of price ng manok. So, ang D0 is original demand curve ng corn kapag tumaas ang price ng manok at mas malaki ang kita ni Naomi sa bawat dagdag na mais. Kaya, demand curve ay lilipat sa kanan at nagiging D1. Ibig sabihin, sa parehong price ng corn is mas marami na siyang bibilhin at mas marami na rin siyang kailangan. Marginal productivity principles serve as the basis for the determination of demand for labor that crucial input whose financial rewards plays so important a role in economy standards of living. So, sa kabilang banda is kapag bumaba ang price ng manok or mas kaunti ang bumibili sa kanya, bababa rin ang kita mula sa corn. So, dito, ang demand curve ay lilipat sa kaliwa mula sa D0. Ibig sabihin, sa parehong price ng corn is mas kaunti ang bibilihan niya at makikita. So, that's all for today. Thank you so much po.
Today, I will be reporting about investment capital interest. Ngayon, ano nga ba yung difference ng capital and investment? Yung capital, this is the stuff that the business already owns. For example, yung mga buildings, computers, and machineries, and trucks, mga pagmamayari ng company na pwede niyang gamitin para mas mag-increase yung profit. Tapos, next naman yung investment. This is the action of buying new stuff. When a company builds a new factory or buys a new laptop, that is the investment. Ayan. Yung investment naman po is yung mga binibili ng company na panibagong gamit para mas lumaki yung kita nila. Yun yung ginagamit ng company para mas mag-increase yung profit or gumagawa sila ng innovation para mas tumaas yung kita nila. Next one is the bathtub analogy. Imagine a capital is the water already inside the tub. Investment is the water coming out of the faucet. Ayan. For example po ng capital, ayun nga, sabi, yung tubig na nasa loob ng bathtub. Tapos yung investment naman is yung water na lumalabas sa faucet. Yan. As long as na mas nag-i-invest ka, ayun, mas dumadami yung tubig na nakalagay dun sa may bathtub mo. Pero kapag di ka nag-invest, kung ano lang yung nakalagay dun sa bathtub mo, yun lang yung makukuha mo. Kagaya lang siya sa capital investment. Kung gaano karami yung capital mo, kapag di ka nag-invest, ganun lang siya. Di ka kikita ng mas malaki. Ayan. Paano nga ba ito gumagana? Merong 5 steps. Una, mag-plan. The company decides they need more equipment. Siyempre, ayan na. Diyan na sila nakapag-isip. Mas naisip nila na kailangan nila ng mag-invest para mas kumita. As next, second step is get money. They need cash. Kung pwedeng manggaling sa kita nila or pwede sila mag-borrow sa bank. Tapos, step 3 is invest. Ayan na. Ginamit na nila yung pera na nakuha nila sa may profit nila or yung binaraw nila sa may bank para bumili ng equipment. For example nga kanina, yung building or yung machineries. Tapos, ang naging result, mas marami na silang capital ngayon kaysa nung nakaraan. Kasi nga, ayan, nag-invest sila. Gumastos sila para sa bagong equipment. Tapos, ayan na, sa step 5, doon na nakikita yung profit. Ginamit nila yung mga bagong bagay na yun para mas kumita sila. Para mas ma-improve yung production nila. Kagaya nga nun, yung machineries. Mas na-improve yung pagbilis ng production nila. Next naman is yung investors provide financial capital, own funds or borrowed money to finance investments. Which means sila nag-i-invest yung mga investors sa mga firms para kasi pag binayaran nila yung nag-invest sila sa mga firm, kino-convert yun ng firm into physical capital for production. Ayan. Parang kapag nag-invest ka sa company na yun, kapag mas marami silang product na nagawa, mas pag binayaran ka nila nun, ayan, mas malaki na. Tapos, dito na lalabas yung interest. Borrowed funds require repayment with interest. A yearly repayment for using the money calculated as percentage of the loan. For example, nagbaro ka ng $1,000 at 12% interest. So, nagre-require siya ng $120 annual interest. Kasi 12% annual interest yung kinuha mo na sa bank. Yung rate naman is the rate of borrowing is nakadetermine siya sa supply and demand of the economy. Bali dun siya nagbabase kung gaano kataas yung magiging interest na ipapatong ng bank. People borrow money. Borrowers are people or companies who need money now. Sila yung mga nangungutang. For example, yung mga students and families. Umutang sila sa bank para magbayad ng tuition or bumili ng car. Mas nagpo-focus sila sa mga pangangailangan nila. Tapos, yung sa naman, business, they borrow to buy machines. Kagaya nga ng sinabi kanina, umuutang sila sa bank para mas mag-invest. Kasi parang nag-i-invest sila para mas lumaki nga yung kita nila. Number 2 naman is yung principle governing quantity of funds demanded. Firms will continue to borrow money only as long as the marginal revenue product or the MRP, the additional revenue generated by investment. Yung MRP is the additional revenue generated by the investment. Ayun nga, siya? Additional na kita sa ginawa mong investment. For example nga, yon, gumawa ka ng machinery. Ay bumili ka. Tapos, kung kumita ka ba doon, may additional ba nakita sa ininvest mo? Tapos, tinitigil ng company yung pag-i-invest kapag mas malaki yung or nag-i-equal yung interest rate sa dagdag na kinita ng company o yung MRP. Yun yung MRP, yung marginal revenue product. Yan. Number 3 naman is capital as a durable good. Unlike raw materials that are used up immediately, yung capital as a durable good is mas naglalas siya ng mas matagal. Kunyari nga yung machineries and buildings, mas durable sila. Nagtatagal sila na many years. Kaya, nahirapan silang i-calculate yung MRP kasi ang mga gamit na to, mas naglalas siya ng matagal. Kaya, dapat ang i-calculate mo kung magkano na ba yung kikitain nila hanggang sa future, hanggang sa susunod na mga years. Kasi, itong investment na to, pang matagalan talaga. As number 4 naman is key concepts about money over time. To determine if an investment is profitable, we must compare the value of money today versus the money in the future. Ayun nga, kagaya nga ng sabi ng kanina, para malaman mo kung kumita ka talaga, i-compare mo yung pera mo ngayon sa magiging future na pera mo. Ayun, kunyari nung umutang ka, meron kang 1,000. Tapos pag sa future, magkakaroon ka na ng 10,000. Ibig sabihin, may kikitain ka talaga. Pero in the long term pa siya. Ayan. So, sa number 5 is the role of interest rates. Interest rates acts as a crucial mechanism in the economy by deciding the overall level of investment. Ayan. Dito, mas malalaman mo kung tama nga ba pinagastusan mo ng pera. Kung mas kikita ka ba kapag nag-invest ka ng pera dito, kunyari sa machinery, kikita ka ba kapag nag-invest ka doon? Tapos, influencing whether people choose to save money instead of spending it immediately. Siyempre, kapag nangutang ka, alam mong may dagdag siya na interest. Kaya di mo siya gagastusin basta-basta sa kung ano-anong bagay. Dapat ilalagay mo na siya sa investment. Yung alam mong mas kikita ka kesa mabaon ka sa utang. Thus, next is balancing how society resources are used, whether for consumption today or for growth in the future. Ayun nga, more on investment for the future. Ayan. Naman, yung downward sloping na curve. Kagaya nga ng nakikita nyo dyan sa taas is naka-downward sloping siya. Bakit nga ba ganyan? Why the demand curve for funds is downward sloping? Ayan, yung curve na yan, nag-show siya ng interest rate sa vertical axis niya. Tapos, sa horizontal axis naman niya is yung quantity of funds borrower want to obtain. Kaya siya nag-i-slope downward because kapag mas tumataas yung interest rates, mas konti yung taong may gustong mag-utang. Kasi, syempre, mas mataas na interest, mas malaking babayaran mo. Kaya, konti na lang yung gustong umutang. Ayan. The downward sloping demand curve for funds. Ayan nga, kagaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, the demand curve slopes downward because the higher the interest rates, reduce the quantity of funds demanded. Derived demand. The need to borrow money comes from the desire to buy capital, land, or labor. Ayun nga, kaya sila nangungutang para makabili sila ng mas maraming capital, land, or labor. Parang dito na rin yung pumapasok yung investment. Tapos, impact on profitability. Investment generate returns in the future. Higher interest rates reduce the present value of these future earnings. Ayun na. Yan na rin yung mga investment. Nag-generate siya ng mas maraming balik nakita in the future. Tapos, nag-e-effect din yung curve na yan sa decision making. Siyempre, kapag kikita naman sila sa mga mas low rates na pag-utang, siyempre, yun yung mas pipiliin nila kung saan sila mas kikita. Kasi, minsan, kahit sobrang taas pero minsan naman, kahit sobrang taas ng interest rates, pag alam mong kaya mo siyang lagpasan ng profit mo, yun, pwede mo siyang piliin. The supply of funds and equilibrium interest rates. Ayan. The supply curve slopes upward because the higher interest rates encourage more lending. Bakit nga ba ganun? Kasi, yung suppliers o yung lenders, yung mga individuals or banks or firms na nagpapautang. Sila yung mga nagpapautang ng pera sa mga businessman. Mas dumadami sila kapag mas mataas yung interest rate. Siyempre, mas magpapautang sila pag alam nilang mas malaking balik. Tapos, next Next is market equilibrium. Ano ba yung market equilibrium? The market equilibrium interest rate is determined where the upward sloping curve intersects the downward sloping demand curve. Yan na. Dito makikita yung kanina. Yung kung 'di ba sabi kapag mas konting kapag mas mataas yung interest, yun yung kanina yung downward slope. Tapos magi-intersect siya sa upward slope netong lenders. Yan. Sa adjustments, if rates are too high, there is excess supply and rates fall. If rates are too low, there is excess demand and rates rise until balance is achieved. Ayun nga, kailangan mas mag-balance lang yung mga lenders tsaka yung mga uutang. Kasi kapag sobrang mataas yung rates, mas maraming magpapautang pero wala namang umuutang. Kapag naman sobrang baba, wala nang gusto magpautang kasi alam nilang mababa lang yung kikitain nila sa may interest. Kaya di na sila, ayaw na nila masyado magpautang. Yan. Next naman is understanding the graph equilibrium in the market for loans. This graph shows how the interest rate and the amount of money lent are determined in the market. So ngayon naman, mas iintindihin natin itong graph na nasa taas. Yan, the lines. Lines, yung may D. Nakikita nyo ba yung may D? Ayan. Nag-i-slope siya downward. Yun nga yung kanina. Yung kapag mas mataas yung interest rates, mas mas konti yung mga taong gustong umutang. Tapos yung line S, ito yung line S, kita nyo ba? N naman, yan yung makikita yung mga nagpapautang. Sila yung kapag kagaya ng kanina, kapag mas tumataas yung rate, mas dumadami sila kasi mas marami ang kikitain nila. Tapos yung point E, yan na yung equilibrium. Yan mo makikita yung at this point, the amount of money people want to borrow is exactly equal to the amount of people want to lend. Yan, nagtatapat sila. Kung gaano karami yung gustong magpautang, ganun din yung karami yung gustong umutang. Ayan, ang interest rate na nakikita nyo dyan sa taas is 7.5%. Ayan, is the market price that balances everything out. Yan, points A and point B are this equilibrium. Bakit? Kasi yung point A, rate is too low. Tapos, at 5.5% borrowing is cheap. So, the demand is high. Ayan. Diba nga, mas mura. Mas mababa yung percentage ng interest. Kaya, mas marami yung gustong umutang. Pero, yung mga nagpapautang, hindi sila masyadong kikita. Kaya, ayaw nila magpautang. Ang nagiging resulta doon is, there is a shortage of money. Bakit? Kasi, maraming taong gustong umutang, pero ang karamihan naman sa tao na iba is ayaw nila magpautang kasi nga mababa yung interest. Kasi dito naman sa may point B, rate is too high. Sobrang taas naman ng rate. Kaya yung demand ng mga gustong umutang mas mababa. Tapos at this higher level relative to supply, borrowing is expensive. So the demand is low. Yun nga. Pero yung mga nagpapautang is na-attract sila dito. Kasi kaya nagbibigay sila ng mas madaming pera. Siyempre, mas marami silang ipapautang, mas marami silang interest na makukuha. Kaya nagiging resulta, there is a surplus of money. Banks have cash but not enough borrowers. Ayun nga, ang daming natitirang pera sa bank. Kaso nga lang, sa sobrang taas ng interest, ayaw naman ng mga tao na umutang kasi parang di naman sila kikita rin. Ayun. In short, the graph shows that the market naturally moves toward point E. If rates are too low or too high, the forces of supply and demand push them back to the balance point. Yun nga, kailangan mag-adjust lang sila sa magpapantay silang dalawa. Yung dalawang curve, yung 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 curve ng mga nagpapautang tsaka ng mga umuutang. Ayan. Ito naman, may binigay na example sa puzzle resolve. For example, higher interest rates may cause some savers like Jim saving for a fixed $10,000 tractor goal over 3 years. To save less, he needs $3,100 a year at lower rates but can save less with a higher return. Some savers increase saving when rates rise while fixed target savers reduce it. Ayun nga, parang mas hinati niya yung babayaran niya para para mas kayanin niya kasi sobrang laking pera nung $10,000. Some savers increase savings when rates rise while fixed target savers reduce it. Market supply curve remains upward sloping but it is steep as growth from some lenders is partially offset by declines from target savers. Ayun nga, kagaya ng sabi ko kanina. Siyempre, kapag nga mas tumaas yung rates, mas konti yung gustong umutang. Kasi bakit ka uutang kapag mataas pa yung rate? Doon ka, antayin mo na lang siya bumaba, tapos doon ka uutang. Ayan. Equilibrium interest rate. Example, 2.5% at point E in figure 5, yung kanina nga, dito sa may graph, occurs where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. Rates above equilibrium lead to excess supply and lower rates. Rates below lead to excess demand and higher rates until balance is restored. Ayun nga, parang nagpapalit-palitan lang siya. Kapag nasa taas yung dun siya nag-equilibrium or dun siya naglagay, mas mataas yung rates. Kaya konti lang yung utang pero marami nagpapautang. Tapos pag sa baba naman, marami yung gustong umutang pero ayaw nung nagpapautang kasi konti lang yung interest rate. Kaya kailangan magtatapat sila sa equilibrium nila. Yan. Next one naman is yung the issue of usury loss. Ang definition ng usury loss is yung batas na nagsiset ng maximum limit on interest rates to prevent excessive charges. Ayun nga, pine-prevent niya yung mga lenders na sobra-sobra magpatong ng interest. Ang magiging epekto niya, if legal cap is 5% is set below the natural market rate. Syempre, mas magkukunti yung supply. Ayun nga, parang paulit-ulit lang, katulad nung kanina. Pag konti yung pag mababa yung interest, syempre konti lang yung magpapalend. Tapos yung demand tataas. Tapos ang magiging resulta is a shortage of funds occurs and many creditworthy applicants get rejected. Ayan. Tapos next is winners and losers. Ayan nga, yung gainers. Those who successfully get loans at lower cap rate. Ayun na. Yung mga taong nakakautang na mababa pa yung interest rates. Tapos yung mga losers naman yung hindi pinayagan na makautang. O kunyari, for example, umutang sila pero nalugi lang yung nila business kaya di nila rin nabayaran yung interest or sobrang taas ng interest kaya di na nahabol ng profit nila. Ayan. Next naman, ayan yung payday lending. Special case with extremely high rates. Ayun, sila ng for 400% na patong. Parang yan, short na pagpapautang, short term. Ayun. Ang kala ng iba, mababa lang yung patong kasi short term lang eh. Yung kasi 400%, siya, parang siya sa annually. Kaya akala mo mukhang mababa, pero sobrang laki. Kapag kinount mo siya as a year. Kapag nag-look ka sa mas bigger picture.
Good day everyone, my name is Mariel L. Villar and now I'll be discussing the determination of rent. So first, in economics, yung rent is the payment for the use of land. Yung special sa land is that supply is fixed. So, ibig sabihin, kahit tumaas or bumaba yung presyo, hindi nadadagdagan yung lupa. For example, kung may 1,000 acres of land sa isang town, yun lang talaga yung available. Hindi na siya magbabago kahit gaano pa kataas yung rent. So, let's move to the graph. Let's move to the graph 6. So, makikita nyo naman dyan na yung supply curve is vertical, while yung demand curve is downward. Vertical yung supply kasi fixed yung land. This is what we call perfectly inelastic. Yung demand naman is pababa because of diminishing returns. Habang mas ginagamit yung land, bumababa yung additional benefits na nakukuha natin dito. So since fixed yung supply, demand yung nagde-determine ng rent. So, kung tataas yung demand, like halimbawa, may bagong university na itatayo, mas gusto ng land, kaya tataas yung rent. Kapag bumaba yung demand, bababa rin yung rent. So, let's move to the differences in land. Hindi lahat ng lupa is pare-pareho, may difference sila. So, sa location, soil quality, accessibility, ayon po kay David Ricardo, yung mas magandang klase daw po ng lupa is mas mataas yung rent dahil productive sila. So, sa economic rent and rent seeking naman is yung economic rent, ito yung extra payment beyond what is necessary. So, may minimum payment na kailangan para magamit yung resource. Pero kung mas sobra pa kasi, special or high quality siya, that extra is called economic rent. So, kapag may competition para makuha yung extra income, ang tawag doon is rent seeking. So, let's move to the professional athletes or the application. Magandang example nito is the professional athletes. Halimbawa, isang superstar player, iisa lang siya. So, fix yung supply niya. Just like land. So, because limited siya and mataas yung demand, sobrang taas ng salary niya. So, yung extra earning niya beyond normal pay is considered economic rent. So,
Is payments to owners, are profits too low or too high? The big debate. Yan nga. People love to argue about profits. Sinasabi ng mga critics, profits are way too high. Companies are greedy and ripping people off. They should pay more taxes. Pero, sabi naman ng mga business, profits are actually too low. We need them to survive and grow. If taxes are too high, we can't hire people or expand. Ito, nagbigay sila ng real-world example. In the US, in 2017, business argued that taxes were too high. So, the government lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% down to 21%. What is the reality? Most people think business keep a huge chunk of money, but the actual numbers are lower than you might expect. Kasi in 2018, sinabi dito, corporate profits were about 12.6% of the total economy, GDP. Small business owners' income added another 9%. So total earnings for owners are roughly around 20% combined. Ngayon naman, paano naman siya binubview ng economists? Economists try not to say that's fair or that's unfair. Instead, they look at the math and the market. Di sila nagbabase or nagbabayas. Di sila nagbabase dun sa may kung ano lang yung tingin ng iba. Mas nagaano sila sa logic. In summary, the argument will never end. The public thinks profits are huge. Business thinks they are too small. And economists just try to measure exactly what the number is and how it affects the market. Ayun nga, yung iba't ibang tao na yun, may iba't iba rin silang perspective ng pagtingin kung ano ba yung nangyayari. Siyempre, magkakaiba sila ng pwesto. Yung businessman, sila yung nasa loob. Yung mga Consumers naman, mga nasa labas. Tapos yung mga economists, sila yung nag-measure ng kung gaano ba nakaka-affect yun sa market. Yan. Next naman is economic profit versus normal returns. Etong slide naman na to explains the difference between what business owners expect to earn and what they earn above that expectation. Ano nga ba yung normal return? This is the minimum amount money an owner expects just to keep their business running. Ito yung kinikita or yung balik na para lang mapagpatuloy ng business, yung pagtakbo, para hindi sila mabankrupt. It's similar to the interest you would earn if you put your money in the bank instead of investing it in the business. Parang ano lang, nagiging ano ka lang sa stable. Gusto mo lang siya maging stable, kagaya nga ng sabi dyan. Nilagay niya lang sa bank yung pera niya. Tapos, meron siyang interest pero sobrang baba lang. Kunyari, 0.5, 0.3, ganon, 0.2% na interest yung kikitain mo. In accounting terms, it is treated as a cost. Specifically, the opportunity cost of using your own money. Ang key point dyan is, normal returns are not considered economic profit. They are just the break-even point, the standard reward for investing. Ayun na yung keyword niya, break-even point. Parang gusto niya lang, yung kung ano yung kinikita niya, parang ganun lang rin yung ginagastos niya. Normal lang. Wala kang masyadong dagdag na kita. Kung magkano ginastos mo, ganun rin yung kikitain mo. Next naman is yung ano naman yung economic profit. This is the money left over after all costs are paid. Ayan, yung pera na tira after mo bayaran lahat ng mga bagay. Ni-include niya yung wage, rent, materials, interest on loans, and the normal return expected by the owner. Kapag may economic profit ka, it means you are earning more than what you could get by putting your money elsewhere. Ibig sabihin, kumikita ka. Kumikita yung ano mo, business mo. Ngayon naman, how does it work in reality? In theory, if markets were perfectly competitive, competition would eventually wipe out economic profit. Everyone would just earn the normal return. In reality, some business earn much more than normal returns. Why? These extra earnings come from sources like rent, owning unique resources or a land, or monopoly power, being the only seller. Siyempre, kapag ikaw lang seller, sa'yo lang lahat ng customer. Kahit anong i-price mo, kahit anong mo, sa'yo lahat sila. Tapos next, innovation or risk-taking. Creating something new or taking risks that others won't. Siyempre, kapag mas nag-risk ka, the higher the risk, the bigger the reward nga, di ba? Kapag mas nag-innovate ka, mas gugustuhin ng mga customer na sa'yo bumili. Kasi, mas yun sa'yo mas improve version. O kaya, may ginawa kang bagay na magpapadali sa buhay nila. In short, normal return is the standard interest like payment owners deserve for their investment. Parang lang, kung ano yung ininvest nila, ganun lang rin yung balik sa kanila. Tapos yung naman, economic profit, the bonus or the extra money they earn above that standard level. Parang bonus na lang siya, mga nakuha mong pera. Parang lang siya, lagpas na dun sa may mga gusto mong kitain. Lagpas na sa gusto mong kitain na bagay, tapos may dagdag pa sa'yo na pera.
Number 1, risk-bearing. Firms take on financial risks like oil exploration, where most ventures fail but successful ones yield large returns. Extra income beyond normal rates compensates for risk. Risk-adverse investors require payoffs higher than statistical odds would suggest to participate. However, risk-loving or overly optimistic investors see average returns below interest rates even as successful ones earn significant profits. An example of risk-bearing would be starting a small business firm where there is a high risk of that business might not be successful due to competition, changing taste, or lack of funding. However, a successful business will become profitable, allowing the owner to earn more than they would in a regular job, which is the return of taking the risk. So number 2 of returns to innovation. It is the most socially beneficial source of above normal profits. Innovative entrepreneurs turns into inventions into practical products, methods, or markets, gaining a temporary competitive edge that allows temporary monopoly profits. They have been critical to driving long-term growth in per capital income and developing new products. An example of return to innovation would be in e-commerce platforms. Platforms such as Lazada and Shopee introduced the online marketplaces to the Philippines. The online marketplace is an innovation by allowing consumers to purchase goods from anywhere at any time. This creates a new market and made substantial profits for the innovators.
On about criticisms of marginal productivity theory. So, the theory of factor pricing described in this chapter once again used supply-demand analysis. So, factor pricing theory also relies heavily on the principle of marginal productivity to derive the shape and the position of derived demands for various inputs. So, in this theory, said that na gumagamit sila ng supply and demands para malaman yung sahod ng mga trabahador. So, ibig sabihin, kung gaano karami ang workers at gaano sila kailangan is doon nakabase ang kanilang sweldo. Pero, ang sinasabi ng critics is hindi sapat na ito para mas fair ang sahod. Kasi hindi lahat is nadadaan lang sa demand at supply. So, according to this, when marginal productivity theory claims that each factor is paid according to its marginal revenue product, it is only a sneaky way of saying that each factor is paid exactly what is deserved. So, in this theory is bawat tao ay binabayaran based sa ambag niya or sa marginal revenue product. Pero ayon sa critics is mas maraming sinasabi na kung ano ang sahod mo, yun ang deserve mo. Kaya hindi nito nasasagot kung tama ba or fair yung sahod na nakukuha nila each work. So the theory is also criticized because of marginal revenue product depends not only on productivity but on the quantity of the factors employed due to diminishing returns. As a result, low wages do not necessarily reflect low effort or low social value. So, hindi lang sipag ang basihan ng kinikita natin araw-araw. It depends ito sa dami ng workers kapag sobrang dami na. Bumababa ang ambag ng bawat isa or kaya naman is kahit masisipag ka, pwede pa rin bumaba ang value ng trabaho mo or ng sahod mo. Let's for example is may workers na may sakit or di kaya is marami siyang inaalagaan anak. Kahit hindi siya kasing productivity ng iba is pwede pa rin siyang mas deserving tulungan or mabigyan ng patas na sahod. Meaning, hindi lang productivity ang basehan ng pagiging deserving. Nakadeserve siya sa pagiging masipag at pagiging matyaga natin. That's all po. Thank you so much.
So, today I'll be continuing the criticism of marginal productivity. The marginal productivity theory is that while it helps explain supply and demand, it doesn't really solve real-world problems. In other terms, ina-explain niya how wage and income are determined, but it doesn't answer if those outcomes are actually fair. For example, if a worker is paid a low wage, the jury just says it because of their marginal productivity, but it doesn't consider if that worker is already struggling or living in poverty. So, critics says the jury is limited. It's useful for explanation but not enough to address issues like poverty and minimum wage. That's why we still need other solutions like government policies. And for the fifth bullet, criticism, the idea is that even though the jury gives some insight into policy matters, it still offers very little help in solving bigger economic problems. Yes, it helps us understand supply and demand, But when it comes to issues like income inequality, poverty, and wage fairness, it doesn't provide concrete solution.